A very warm good morning to one and all. I, Trupti Tagare, Assistant Professor from the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Dayanand Sagar College of Engineering, Bengaluru, on behalf of the management, principal, and DSE family, extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you to this virtual workshop on entrepreneurship skills, attitude, and behavior developments. This workshop is organized in association with Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering and Departments of Mathematics, Dayanand Sagar College of Engineering, Bengaluru. The workshop aims to extend the knowledge of individuals regarding how to build entrepreneurship skills, attitude, and behavioral developments, and also to build a successful career utilizing the career opportunities, what you get, also how to become a successful entrepreneur in developing a startup company. Dear participants, staff and students, we are all privileged to have a well-known expert resource person in the telecommunication circles across the country with us, none other than our very own colleague and mentor, Professor Chandrasekhar N., Associate Professor, EC Department, DSE, and former Deputy Director General, Telecom Engineering Circle, Government of India, New Delhi, India. Now, I request Dr. Shashiraj K., Assistant Professor, Department of ECE DSE, to introduce our resource person for the workshop, Professor Chandrasekhar N.
Thank you, Trupti Madam, and good morning to one and all present here. It's my proud privilege to introduce you all the speakers for today's session, Professor Chandrasekhar N. He has excellent academic qualification. Professor Chandrasekhar completed his bachelor's in electronics from prestigious UVC Bengaluru and master's in communication systems from IIT Madras and postgraduate diploma in management from All India Management Association. Professor Chandrasekhar has 3.5 years of experience in the field of optical fiber and coaxial systems in ITI, Bengaluru. So with his intelligence and hard work, he has cleared Indian Engineering Services exam, which offered him to join Department of Communication, Government of India. He has a rich experience in telecom operations, maintenance, planning, and project. He has served in the field of electronic landline exchanges, mobile communications, especially 2G, 3G, and high-speed data communications for many years. He has worked in many states of India, namely Karnataka, Assam, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and New Delhi with several capacities. He also served as marketing manager for about 2 years and retired from his service as the Deputy Director General, Telecom Engineering Center, New Delhi. So then he joined teaching profession to share his vast knowledge and experience. And currently he is working as associate professor in the Department of BC, Dayanand Sagar College of Engineering, Bengaluru. Sir, we are all really blessed to have you with us, sir. So I am sure that each one of the participants present here is waiting eagerly for your session, sir. I request you to start the session, sir. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shashiraj, for your very generous introduction. Thank you very much. That is indeed very inspiring and encouraging. Hope the students will find this seminar interesting. I understand that this seminar is also attended by the first semester students. So a little thing about entrepreneurship and the role of engineers in making modern India. See, normally engineers means we have the assumption that they are only technology people. They learn a lot of things. They are on to innovation, discovery, etc. But let me tell you, engineer is much more than what you presume it to be. Engineers are basically nation builders. And for that, it is not only essential that one should know about the technologies of their respective field, but also the organization's objectives in which they serve, the society needs, society wants, the environment in which they work. All these things are a must for a successful engineer. Wherever he is, he should act as an entrepreneur. Of course, I use the term entrepreneur without introducing, and let us now start and discuss what are the characteristics, skills, attitudes, and behavior of an entrepreneur, which I insist every engineer should think, act, speak like an entrepreneur. It's very, very important. Now let's see what is entrepreneurship. It's a process of creating something different with value. I hope you understood the two keywords in this: something different and with value. It should add value to the existing product, services, or it should be a new one. And for that, an entrepreneur has to devote his time and effort. Is that sufficient? No. Normally, entrepreneurship is associated with business. Let me tell you, entrepreneurship is much more than business. And we associate business with financial risk. Well, entrepreneurship is much more than financial risk. It also has got psychological and social risk. But then, what is the end result of being an entrepreneur? You reap the rewards of monetary and high personal satisfaction. Very important. So in this talk, I would like to share with you the attitudes, the behavior, the skills required for an entrepreneur, and how does the society look at the entrepreneurships. Let's see the role of an entrepreneur. An innovator who combines technical innovation and financial fairness. Very important. Let me repeat. An engineer is a techno-economic being. He has to know about the technology in which he is dealing and the financial risk, financial award he will reap because of that. He is a techno-economic creature. Entrepreneur plays an important role in producing competitive products, process, and services. Again, the important thing is competitive. It is not good enough if an entrepreneur produce a product, discovers a new process, and provides a new services, it has to be competitive. Even if it is a monopoly at present, eventually others will catch up with his products, process, and services. So he has to be ever competitive in his nature and abilities. Now let's say, why does the government encourages so much about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs? You must have heard about Startup India. Central government has kept more than 10,000 crores. I repeat, 10,000 crores for encouraging the entrepreneurs. The money is there for yours, young engineers, to prove their mettle in opening new entrepreneurship, and the money will be made available. Even the state government, like Karnataka government, they have provided the necessary ecosystem for the creation of entrepreneurship. Why do they do that? That is because it creates new employment, local and regional economic development, improved allocation of resources and technology. All are very critical for a nation to survive. Entrepreneurs are in India are growing at an exponential rate. You must have heard about Flipkart, PhonePe, all are developed by entrepreneurs. Okay, now, why does one become an entrepreneur? Are there reasons for becoming an entrepreneur? I'm sure students, when they listen to the lectures or at home while traveling, they get an idea. Wow, this new product will help the society. I should somehow bring this new product into service. Is that sufficient? It's not. Entrepreneurship requires much more than an idea. We will see that shortly. What are the other advantages of being an entrepreneur? One of the biggest challenges and personal satisfaction for any human being is to make decisions, important decisions, key decisions. That gives you self-confidence. And entrepreneurship provides an opportunity for a greater financial success. The entrepreneurs who become successful, you must be hearing the successful entrepreneurs in India, they own nothing less than thousands of crores of rupees. That's what entrepreneurship provides for a successful entrepreneur. It all starts when an entrepreneur develops an innovative idea and it is great to be your own boss. Students, you will find that sometimes it can be a very excruciating experience to work under somebody. If you're bubbling with new ideas, new way of tackling problems, it becomes difficult to work in a structured environment. So it will be a great experience to be your own boss. And you decide with whom you work. And as I said before, you will take all the key decisions. Of course, you should have patience and a positive attitude. We'll see that shortly. You decide your working hours. It's not 10 to 5 job. It's almost like 24/7/365. If you're an entrepreneur, you live with your idea about business. You work with your idea about business. You dream always about your ideas of business. It's a continuous process. Of course, it's self-motivating and it gives you a great opportunity to be creative. Okay, having said all this, let's say, what is this product is all about or the service is all about? You'll be surprised to know every product, a process, a services has got a life cycle. Like a human beings, they have got a life cycle. A product has got its own life cycle. Let's say, what are the characteristics? And more importantly, how does it affect the attitude, and the skills required for this? Now let's see what is the product cycle. The product cycle, if you plot time versus sales, the product life cycle looks like this. During an introduction stage of the product, after the R&D, you decide or you are sure about the worth of your product, and then you will introduce that in the market. That is the introduction stage. Look at this. At the introduction stage, the sales are just picking up. The sales are picking up. And if your product service survives the introduction stage, that is, if the people like your product or the services, there is a huge jump with respect to time in your sales. And this phenomenon is known as growth stage. Growth stage. Now, what happens is the competition picks up. Oh, a new product has come. It is selling a lot of volume in the market. So let me also copy it. Or let me bring out a better product than that. That's what the other entrepreneurs will think. And when they start introducing a year, what happens is your product sales levels off, right? Your product sales levels off. That is known as a maturity stage. A maturity stage. And with more number of competition, more number of technical features coming in the market, the declining phase will start. That is, your sales will go down. This happens with all the products. For example, all of you must be familiar with 2G, 3G in communication, 2G, 3G, 4G. If you remember, 2G was introduced somewhere in 1995 in India. It was growing, and around 2010, it has reached a plateau. Then it started decreasing because 3G started growing. So it is very essential. Every engineering student understand this phenomenon of life cycle of a product: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. We can speak hours together. What are the things to be done during introduction, growth, maturity, and decline? So for the time being, it is good enough for our purpose that you understand there is a life cycle of a product, and the various stages are introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Now, every business organization can and will survive only if it makes profit, right? It invests its money, other resources, and if it does not make profit, it does not make business sense. So let's say during each of the stages, and the stage which we are not included here, that is the R&D stage, where your idea is put into a process to make a product. Let's see how the profit varies during the stages. Well, this is it. You look at this. The red line indicates profit. The green line indicates sales. During the product development, you spend a lot of money. Will you get any revenue? No. So the revenue is almost zero during a product stage, and since you spent a lot of money, you will be incurring losses during product development. This is the first shocker that an entrepreneur encounters in his business, that he should be ready psychologically to face these losses during the initial stages. Okay. After that, the product is introduced in the market. The sales starts growing, that is during introduction, and Students, you must be wondering, when the sales are growing, how is it that the loss are also growing? That is the typical nature of business. And I'm sure you will learn during, I think, the 6th semester, when you learn engineering economics, why this happens. To put the long story short, any business can start making profit only after taking care of the fixed cost and the variable cost. Simply, fixed cost does not vary with the amount of products you make. It remains the same. The variable cost increases with the number of products you make, because you require raw material, you consume more electricity, you have to pay wages. That means there is a variable cost and a fixed cost. Unless the sales overtake the combined fixed cost and the variable cost, you cannot make profit. And obviously, that point is this, where your sales or the revenue is more than your fixed and variable cost, and you make profit, and that is around the growth stage. So during maturity, you'll make profit, and the profit will decrease in the declining stage. Now, having learned so much of mathematics, I feel the students should have immediately got that point, that which area should be more, whether this area or this area. Obviously, this area must be much more than this area. That is, if you are able to compute by integration, for integration, you require a function, right? Now, I'm introducing you to the reality of entrepreneurship, the reality of business. Look, you are at this stage when you plan your business. Can you compute this function? Can you compute this function so that you will know how much loss you'll make? By finding, if you know this function, you can integrate from year to year and get this area. This is where your integration will find application in business. But then you are all familiar with a known function. Y is equal to f of x, where f of x is ax square plus bx plus c, something like that, so that you can integrate, right? But let me tell you, it is not x. It is x1, x2, x3, x4. And how do you find those constants? That is reality. Students, that is reality. What is taught in engineering is a tool, an integration tool, which tells you that you can find an area known after knowing a function. And again, if you want to make the profit, again, you should know this function. And T1 to T2, so that you can integrate this curve from T1 to T2 to find the total profit. why I'm taking a lot of time explaining this figure is because of two things. In reality, I repeat, in reality, you don't know these functions as in given in your college. When they teach, they will give a function which is a deterministic model. In reality, you will never get into a deterministic model. Because, very simple, if it is a deterministic model, if business is a deterministic model, anybody and everybody can get into the business. You understand the tools which are taught in engineering and apply that to the reality. That is why when you get an opportunity to study MBA and all that, they teach you about case studies. Case studies. What happened in the real business case? How did it differ from the theories which you learned in your business school or in your engineering colleges? That's the difference. In this case, all these things are summed up. You should know one terminology, students, that is known as WAKA. I don't know how many of you heard about WAKA, but let me introduce to the concept of WAKA by saying, if you got an aspiration to be a CEO of a company, a multinational company, like Hindustan Unilever, or for example, Google, Facebook, you name any multinational, IBM, whatever it is. The one thing they will test you is, are you WAKA ready? Having given a short introduction to WAKA, let me introduce you to the concept of WAKA and give a brief description of that. WAKA stands for, that is VUCA, WAKA. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. There is no deterministic model in this world. Very few are there. If it exists, very few. The number one is, it's always the probabilistic model which is important. That is why you should know the exact, the nature and the meaning of probability. What is probability? Probability is uncertainty. Probability is uncertainty. Why it is uncertain? It says, if you do an infinite number of experiments, the number of desired units, desired outcomes with the total outcomes is what probability is. Number one, that probability can never apply if your sample is limited in nature. Look, the probability itself is probable now, because your definition, what does it say? And it tends towards that number. That itself is uncertain. Think about it. Probability plays an important thing if you want to understand the real nature of this universe, real nature of business. Volatility. What is volatility? Yeah, okay, let's see what is volatility is. As we know, we say the only constant in life is change. Having said that, what is the dynamics of change? The nature of this change? What speed the change occurs? The challenge will always be unexpected or unstable, and it's of unknown duration. Now, coming back to our diagram, what I'm trying to say is volatility means you really don't know this timings. When does introduction takes place, growth takes place, maturity takes place, decline takes place, and at what speed, what is the slope of this? You don't know. That is volatility. Let's say, which is a adjutant or an added concept, which is known as complexity. What is complexity? The multiplex of forces, the amount of issues involved, the chaos and the confusion in an organization which is surrounded by all this is too many. There are interconnected parts, variables. Some information may be available and predicted, but the volume of nature of it can be overwhelming to the process. That is, again, going back to the original figure, to define this curve, the amount of parameters you require is enormous. To understand the parameters and its effect, it is enormous. That is complexity. Ambiguity is it can be summarized by the reality is hazy. What parameters you think is okay today, tomorrow, those parameters itself has changed. What you considered as cause and effect, the effect may become a cause tomorrow. Normally, we engineers are very, common. Always we want to know what is the cause which has given to this effect. Can you draw the borderline between cause and effect? In short, when you say y is equal to fx, fx is known, y is unknown, right? So we are dealing with a known and unknown. But many times you have to deal with unknown unknowns. Am I playing with words? Unknown unknowns. Let me give a simple example, which we are now all familiar with. And also it says, in spite of VUCA and all these things, we are capable of doing business. You are capable of, if you are strong in the fundamentals, the tools which you have learned in engineering, if you are conceptually understood, you can deal with all this. Only thing is, this is just alert, you should be ready with dealing with this. Okay, now let me give an example, a very known example. All of us, we know what is the unknown unknown. Go back to 2019. Did you know anything about coronavirus? What is the cause of that? Even today, the scientists, the top scientists in the world, are groping in the dark about the causes. There are many theories. And now, what are the effects of virus? Still not fully known. What is the treatment for the virus? Still not fully known. But human beings have not given up hopes. It is your seniors, the engineers, the doctors who came up in spite of all this, say, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, they came with some vaccine. Initially thought you take the vaccine and that's the end of it. It's now it is not so. So the process goes on. So students, I'm just wanted to inform you that there are two sides of the coin for an entrepreneur. One is the waka, other is the rewards of being a successful entrepreneur. That is where the skills required, the attitude required, the behavior required, we should know in advance to be an entrepreneur. Now let's get into that. What does the entrepreneur require? Self-confidence. Very important. That's the first thing I feel a good engineer should develop. That's the reason AICT, NBA, they always stress on, apart from the technological aspect, things like communication ability, team working, lifelong learning, of course, lifelong working, we used to say Swa Adhyaya, long back. Our Rishi said Swadhyaya is very, very important. So the next important thing is passionate and focused. Are you passionate? Are you thinking about your idea 24/7? That is passion. Whether to know whether it is passionate or not, when you work on something, if you feel tired, that means you are not passionate about it. When you work on something and you are not worried about the time or tiredness, that means you are passionate about something. That kind of a passion and focus is required for an entrepreneur. Of course, you require risk-taking ability, both financial, financial, psychological, and social. Risk-taking ability. Leadership ability. Are you a good leader? What that it makes to be a good leader? Do you have the characteristic, the attitude of a leader? You have to be future oriented, and last but not the least, creative. Okay. And now about the skills, let us see, as usual, the management, always in the management studies, you will see some 7 key skills, 5 important habits, like that. It is just to give an introduction. Don't go too much into 7. Is there no 8, 9? There are plenty. But what are the important 7 skills required for a business to be successful? Your interpersonal skills are very important. How do you deal with fellow human beings is very critical in business success. Technically, it is known as networking. Are you good at networking? Are you good at making friends? Are you good at learning from others? Are you good at listening? These are all interpersonal skills. You require self-confidence, obviously. Now look at this. Financial skills. Are you good? Do you have the financial skills? For example, you remember the break-even point which I said. I'm sure many of you mistake revenue for profit. Revenue is different from profit. And further, there is something known as a EBITDA. Earnings before tax, depreciation. Lot of things are required to be financially skillful. If you don't have, if you got a good idea, are you able to go back to the number 1, interpersonal skills? Can you get on board somebody who is financially skillful? That's the important thing. I think I do not have to tell much about technical skills, which day in and day out, I think in engineering colleges, we will be stressing on the technical skills. The 5th skill, which is almost similar to the first skill, is a communication skill. That is more or less I would consider as a interpersonal skills. Okay, you got finance, you got technical skill. Is that good enough? No. Do you have the marketing skills? How will your business grow unless you market? Marketing is not just selling. Selling is not marketing. Selling is part of marketing. It's a part of marketing. There are much more things to marketing than selling. It is how do you advertise? Where do you advertise? It's about market research. Let me tell you, students, data analytics is used much more than solving a technical problems in marketing research. It is a huge, huge topic. The 7th one, technological skills, I did not have to say much about it. You all know about it. Okay, let's see what are the attitudes which are required for, of course, to do a good entrepreneur. One is the initiative. Entrepreneur take the first move towards setting up of an enterprise. What is the tagline for this? Let's do this. Let's do it. That is the first thing that the entrepreneur thinks. Let's do this. I got an idea. Let's do this. Then what does he do? Looks at the opportunities, takes advantage of business opportunities by observing the society. What are its needs? What are its wants? Can I solve the problem which a society needs? That is an opportunity. Do you have the skill to spot an opportunity? As they say, when the opportunity door knocks on the door, be careful. You don't know when it knocks on the door. You have to be on alert always. The next one is information seeking. Look at this gentleman. Climbs a ladder and sees everything around. He should have a holistic view, a bird's view of what's happening in the chosen technical field, in the chosen product, in the chosen entrepreneurship. Entrepreneur always keeps his eyes or her eyes and ears open. We have discussed enough about the difficulty in forecasting, predictability, etc. For that, what is required? Persistence, a golden word. And for that, the tagline is, entrepreneur never disheartened by failures and keeps trying. Keeps trying. Behind every successful entrepreneur, believe me, there are tons of failures. An entrepreneur knows how to deal with failures. That's an important thing. Concern for high quality. Incidentally, Dr. Sashiraj and Tripti Madam, how much more minutes I can have? It's around 11:57 now.
Yes, sir. You can continue for another 10 minutes, sir.
10 minutes, is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I will have another 10 minutes to go. So you should have concern for high quality. Entrepreneur sets high quality standards for themselves and for achieving their standards. High quality in terms of learning skills, in their persistence, in their self-confidence. You should have highest quality. Last but not the least is commitment and efficiency. I would add one more thing, effectiveness. Efficiency is a typical engineering term, output by input. Output by input in terms of efficiency, always less than 100%. Effectiveness makes efficiency more than 100%. For example, what should be the efficiency of your investment? The amount of money you get back should be more than what is the input. The output should be more than the input. That is, the efficiency should be greater than 100%. That is effectiveness. Think about this. Think about this. Entrepreneur shows a high level of commitment towards their work aimed at promoting efficiency, and as I said, I will add effectiveness also. Effectiveness also indicates what should be done. You should be effective in what should be done, not in what need not be done or what should not be done. If you're highly efficient in something which is not required, it's of no use. If you're highly efficient in doing something which does not align with the objectives of the organization or yourself, it's of no use. This is where effectiveness comes into picture. To sum it up all this, remember this, okay, one more thing is there. Problem solving. Two more are there. New problems are bound to come in the course of your journey as an entrepreneur. An unknown problem. Are you as an entrepreneur should be able to take each problem as a challenge and put in best for finding out most appropriate solution. Please understand each word of this. It says most appropriate solution, not the right solution. Because in reality, if you are after the right solution, if you go on discussing to get a right solution, that time may not permit you. So, given the timeline, what is required is the appropriate solution. That's more important. Okay, some more characteristics because of the time constraint, I will skip it. But this is important, an acronym. As I said, management is about acronyms and all that. So a SMART, always remember, SMART is the 5 steps to solve most of your problem. It says specific, the goal setting should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. All the 5 are important. Maybe I'm sure the experts can speak on each item 1 hour easily. What is a specific goal? What is measurable? Why you should be measurable? Why you should always go for setting up goals which are attainable and realistic, and it should have a timeline. Okay. The reasons for entrepreneurs to succeed, okay, that I think the positive attitude, passionate, focus, strength, etc., etc. I think now we must be familiar. I will skip that. Then the most, okay, before I wind up, I just want to inform you, you must have heard about funding. Where do you get funding? Very important. This also, I will go faster. A seed funding is an angel investor who, after gets your idea, thinks that it is worth doing, and he gives your money for you to work out the details. That is the seed funding. In Series A funding, KPI is key performance indicators. Soon, when you start working, getting into jobs, this KPIs becomes a very, very critical thing. Key performance indicator. Everywhere, everything in your organization asks, what is your KPIs? What is your performance vis-a-vis the KPIs? So for that KPIs, Series A funding is required. Series B funding is for if you require more funding for marketing research and to increase your sales. Series B funding is required, and Series C funding is required to acquire companies, etc. And normally it stops there. And in Series D funding, if you have not achieved what you are supposed to achieve after Series C funding, Series D funding is required. For all this, you should have a startup and then unicorn companies, etc. I'm sure the fifth semester students, now when they're presenting their unicorn companies, they must have come across this ABCDC funding. I was intending to, or planning to go details into this. Okay, that's it. I think I should stop here and give you a scope, give you time for any questions. Okay, organizers, I've done with my lecture or the seminar, whatever you call, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, sir. It was a very inspiring and motivational talk. I'm sure our participants will be greatly benefited from the session. Now I request the participants to kindly raise their hand if they have any questions, or they can also put it in the chat box. It's been enabled. So please write your questions, or you can even, I'll give you the option of unmuting yourself also. So you have any questions, students? Yeah, we have Vishal. Yeah, now you have the option of unmuting yourself. You can unmute and ask the question. Yes, students. I'm sure so has explained the things in detail, and yeah, we have a question coming up from Tushar Rawat. What's the process to get funding, sir? So please.
Very good. The process of getting the funding. Okay, one is the even angel investors who give you the seed funding, or nowadays you can log into the Startup India portal, wherein they first go through your project. What is the idea? Is it workable? And then they start funding. That is the ABCDE funding. To start with, it is seed funding. Then they go with the serial A funding, B funding, etc. And let me tell you, now there are enough number of people, right from Azim Premji, Ratan Tata, Narayan Murthy, all these people are prepared to fund for your good ideas. Always remember the tagline, an idea can make a difference. So if you go to this, you can start discussing with these people, and if they find your idea is workable, they start funding you. Also very important to know is, not only they provide funding, but also their expertise in terms of marketing, in terms of exposing you to the new technologies, etc., etc. They are known as mentors apart from funding.
Yes, thank you, sir. I hope you're been answered, Tushar. Next question we have from Harsh Kumar. He asks, what things you think that are missing in Indian startup ecosystem?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a really great question. What are the things missing? I would say, I really have to think, but a really great question. What are the things which are missing from the Indian startup ecosystem, you will find that maybe the things which are missing as of now is the ecosystem for converting an idea into technology. An idea into technology, the ecosystem. What do I mean by an ecosystem? An ecosystem provides you immediate tools, knowledge to convert your ideas. What I will repeat. Suppose you want to find out, for example, in our communication, you want to find out what is the power received in a wireless transmission. Do you have a meter which can measure? That is the ecosystem. An ecosystem wherein people are there to mentor you, not at the level of Ajim Premji, Ratan Tata, etc. Do you have your seniors to look forward to, your role models? That is at a higher plane. At a much lower plane is the ecosystem is there where you can share your ideas with others. That networking concept, that is missing. Networking, yes, now I can crystallize. Networking is an important system which is there, but I would say not to the extent which is required for a startup system.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I hope Harsh has been answered. Right. And next we have Samir asking, sir, how to find the credibility of our startup?
Credibility of our startup. Yes. That's a long drawn process. See, and also you have to draw a balance between because when you get an idea at a young age, you are vulnerable for others to exploit your idea. So you have to be very careful now with whom you discuss, with how you start converting and knowing that it is something which is useful to the society. That is why I said an ecosystem should be there. First, start with providing proof of concept. Proof of concept means that you got a concept and you know that it's a workable idea. So you rig up some circuit, to talk in terms of electronic technology, rig up some circuit and see the outcome is a desirable one. Then you go deep into the circuit to make it reliable. And to start that, you should have an ecosystem, a friendly system wherein you got a lab and incubators. That is where, if you go back to one of my previous webinar on incubators and accelerators, incubators are the places where you can test your idea. And accelerators are places where it will accelerate converting your idea into useful technology. So that was, I think, the last webinar which I gave. So those are the places. Anyway, remember, incubators, accelerators, wherein, in fact, in our own college, we have got incubators. There, you will get to know whether your idea is workable.
Yes, thank you, sir. And one more question we have from Tanmay. He asks, sir, what is the main thing we should think for a startup?
Yeah. First thing is, do you have first, as the idea germinated in your mind? That's the first and the foremost thing. An idea which has germinated in your mind. Once that idea has germinated, give sufficient time to gather more knowledge about your idea. Then work out what is the financial skills required, what is the technical skill required, what is the marketing skill required to put that idea into practice. So it's a long drawn process. Let me tell you, normally how it works out. You may be in the 5th semester, you got an idea now. By the time you incubate idea, you make that idea feasible, it may take 1 year, 2 years. In the meantime, gather as much as knowledge. You should be persistent in getting more information to convert your idea into business. That is a critical point, and it will take more time. In that time, be prepared. Discuss with others, your friends, known friends, reliable friends, whether they can add something more to your ideas. That is how a simple idea is built up as a great business.
Yes, thank you, sir. It all starts with an idea. I hope it's clear to Tanmay now. And we have one more question from Palak Lahoti. She asks, sir, how we can think more and more ideas and at the same time be innovative too? Sir?
Okay, that's a good question. See, you don't plan to become innovative. You don't plan. If you have seen one of the slides, it says, look at the opportunities, be alert always, look at things, hear all the things about the concept. When you are aware, see, unconsciously in your subconscious mind, things are adding up. So when you are inquisitive, when you go deep into anything, you will get certain trends. Observing the trend is an important thing to get an idea. Looking at a same product in a different perspective can give you a lot of ideas. So perception and then thinking differently and being always alert. All your sense organs, in the sense of eyes, ears, your sense, your touch, your taste, eventually you will find that even in taste, there's a lot of business in taste. As you have observed during this pandemic, lot of what do you call that, cooking business has come up. That is taste. How do you go deep into the taste? What are the fundamentals of taste? Is there 5 identifiable taste? How do you mix it up? That's how you get ideas. You incubate, you discuss. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And one more question from Karan Garg. Here we have, do you believe there is some sort of pattern or formula to become a successful entrepreneur?
Sorry, what is that formula?
Is there any pattern or formula to
Yeah.
become a successful entrepreneur?
In my opinion, there is none. There is none, because when you go for a structured thinking, you can never be creative or innovative. When you go against the norms, the usual mindset, the usual structured thinking, usual hierarchical thinking, that is a sign of being creative, being innovative. When you can think differently, not only think, when you see something, can your perspective is different from the normal perspective, that is innovativeness. So I don't think there is any structure or a pattern for being innovative, is my opinion.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have a question from Aditya Agarwal. How would someone identify the right partners for the startup?
Yeah. Again, you go back to this webinar. So what are the skills required? You got an idea. You may not be good in marketing. You may not be good in networking. You may not be good in financing. And if you are going for a product, you may not be good in manufacturing. So what is that lacking in you? That you, if you can identify your shortcomings with their strength, you can be good partners. That is the exact fit-in. In other words, we call it as what is that they bring to that table. And if you already know about it, then it is of no use. If you can bring something on the table which you don't know, which you lack, which you have got a shortcoming, then he is the partner ideal for you.
Yes, sir. So we have a question from Mahvish Fatima. What sort of psychological challenges do entrepreneurs face on a regular basis?
Yeah, very good. You have picked up, because I always insist in my management classes also. Normally we think financial risk is the only thing. We forget about psychological risk. What is the psychological risk? If you're coming from a middle class family, what is the first thing your parents will say? Don't ever think of business, because you will get into a lot of problems. And if you fail, that's it. Your friends will say, I told you so. These are all psychological pressure put on you to enforce their thinking, their experience on you. So you should be persistent. When you get psychological pressure, not to be unduly perturbed about that. That is important. Normally, your close friends, kith and kin, the society in general will put a lot of psychological pressure on your success, on your failure. So you have to be ever vigilant about these things. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we have a question from Vishal Anand, and many others also, I think, will be having this question in their mind. Sir, do you think one should wait first for financial stability in his life and then think about the startup, as it is a long process?
True. To a certain extent, you should be, the basic needs have to be taken care of. Basic need means I am not talking about food, water, etc. Whatever you think is the basic thing for you, basic necessity for you, I feel you should be comfortable with that, because this is a long drawn process. There is a lot of ups and downs, and if your mind is always worried about the basic things which you require is not met at even after a long period of time, that will set you back sociologically and psychologically. So I would say that a certain basic things, and these things you should be ready to sacrifice for a certain time. Beyond a certain point in your basic needs, are you prepared to sacrifice the luxuries, the so-called luxuries, over a period of time? Because if you undergo, I would say, the ups and downs of going through the entrepreneurship, which nobody wants to undertake, I'm sure after your success, you can lead a life which nobody else can lead. That's the difference. During your struggle, everybody wants to avoid that kind of a life. But once you are successful as an entrepreneur, you get so much success in terms of finance, psychologically, socially, that nobody else can lead that life. This is the difference.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll take one last question. It's from Akshiv Bansal. How to compete with the existing startup in the market who had established his name?
Branding. See, that is known as the brand. How do you fight against an established brand? Okay. By number one, adding extra features. Can you prove that a feature in your product which is better than the existing one? The normal thing is, can you produce that product most efficiently and effectively? Okay. For example, you look at Ola Electric. I'm not sure whether you'll be successful or not. Look at the way he has done. Who are the people normally you find going in the scooter compared to motorbike? Obviously, it is a female, right? Now, in his electric factory, what he has done, he has employed only women employees. That gives an added feature. And then he has gone for a scale, wherein scale means if you produce more and more products, the fixed cost comes down drastically. When the fixed cost comes down, your break-even point shifts to the lower side and you can start making the profit earlier. These are some of the ways wherein you can compete with the existing product or a brand. There are, I'm sure, we can discuss this for 1 hour. These are, I think, the immediate things which comes to one's mind. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I hope even still participants must be having some questions in their mind. But since we have to wind up within our time schedule, I assure you students that we are going to have some more lectures from Professor Chandrasekhar sir in the coming days. So we will let you know again when you can join. Okay. And otherwise, also he is here in our department, that's Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, building number 17, our own campus. So you can always come and talk to him. And thank you so much, sir. It was a very, very inspiring talk, and the response and the kind of questions coming up from our students itself tells as to how keenly they have listened to all that you have told them and motivated them to become entrepreneurs. I'm sure they are going to have a lot to take away today with them.
Thank
Now,
you.
for the quiz and the feedback link will be shared in the chat box, students. So kindly fill and submit it. Participants should score minimum of 50% of marks to earn a certificate. Yes, it's been shared. Okay, so please do answer within 10 to 15 minutes from now. After that, we will be not allowing the participants to use the same link. So please do it fast. Thank you, Chandrasekhar sir, for accepting our invite and motivating our students. So you have always done, and we request you to also come and join us in motivating our students for the further sessions also. So I, on the behalf of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering and the Department of Mathematics and the organizers, thank our beloved principal, Dr. CPS Prakash, for extending continuous support in organizing such events. I heartily thank Dr. T.C. Manjunath, Professor and Head, Department of ECE, the man behind steering all these activities. I also thank Dr. Radha Gupta, Professor and Head, Department of Mathematics, for her support and encouragement. I take this opportunity to thank my organizing team, Dr. Shashiraj K, Professor Dhruv Kumar S, Dr. Umesha V, for their support. Last but not the least, I thank each and every one of you who have directly or indirectly helped us in making this workshop a successful one. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.